Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my amazing listener. Welcome to episode 293 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, of course, for joining me today. I really do appreciate you making time to come and listen to episode 293. I promise you it will be 1000% worth your time, but I do appreciate it because I know that you've got lots of other things that you could be doing right now. Of course, April, which is the month we are in now, is all about business basics, the basic things that you need to know about business to grow your business or to be successful in your business. And success is whatever you define success as, not what I define success at. Maybe you've been in business a while, maybe you're brand new to business, but don't be fooled because sometimes going back to the basics is exactly what you need to do in order to move forward. Maybe you've plateaued, maybe you're not getting where you need to be as fast, or maybe, like I said, maybe you're just starting out. Let's talk business basics. Now, before we get into today's episode, a couple of things. Have you had a chance to listen to last week's episode? It was all about sales. Definitely a basic to get right, right? Frances was my guest, and Frances Pratt, I should say, was my guest, and she had some amazing pieces of gold, sales gold in that episode. So make sure you go back there, check it out after listening to today's episode, of course, if you haven't already. The link for that, of course, is all the W's, socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/292, or of course, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, just flick back to episode 292 when you're finished here today. But again, before we get into today's episode, I really wanted to talk to you about a couple of ways that we can work together if it is the right time for you. You know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So just in case you're like, well, Jen, I'd like to work with you, but I don't really know how. So there's a couple of ways to work with me. Book an hour of power where you get to pick my brain for like 30 minutes. Hour of power. You get to pick my brain for 60 minutes. Do not take that as a projection of my thought bubble. I promise I will give you 60 minutes. Whatever's holding you back. Maybe you need to update your Instagram or get a strategy, or maybe Facebook is kind of like, Jen, I can see that Instagram and Facebook are my biggest lead generators, but I don't know how to get more leads or convert them into sales. Maybe you need a Google strategy. Whatever, hour of power, you get to pick my brain. If you want to go up a level, there's one-to-one coaching. This is where we can really get stuck into your business and get stuff done. If I was allowed to swear on my own podcast, I would say the other word, but let's say we can get stuff done. Of course, there's also my 9-week marketing transformation course. If you are looking for a transformation in your business, just about everything I know about marketing is in those 9 modules, or in those 9 weeks of modules in that course. You can buy my book, Small Town, Big Impact. Again, just about everything I know about marketing is in there if you are a reader. And of course, you can buy it on the Kindle version as well. On Amazon and Booktopia and lots of different places. But if you buy it from my website, you get a nice little surprise as well from me. And lastly, sorry to hold you up, but lastly, this is a bit of a secret I've been keeping under my hat, is I'm doing a LinkedIn retreat. Yep, you heard right. I am going to embrace my favorite social media platform, LinkedIn, and Jules Brooke and I are running a LinkedIn retreat in Daylesford in Victoria in August. All of those things are going to be on my website at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Or, of course, just sing out, DM me, email me, give me a call, whatever you would like to do. And we can have a bit of a chat because I'd love a chance to work with you because you're an action taker. And I know that because you are listening to an action taking podcast. Anyway, that is enough about me. Let's talk about my amazing guest today because, again, April is about business basics and I've got Dave Jennings on my podcast. Now, I've known Dave for many years, and for the last couple, we have collaborated on the Big Small Business Survey, which I'm sure you are all quite aware of that survey that I've been doing the last couple of years. But I actually knew Dave quite some years ago when he was the SEO SEO guy. He was probably a bit of a god as well in Melbourne. So that goes way back. But today his business is called Systemology and he literally wrote the book on systems. He is all about systems to the point where he actually systemized himself out of his SEO business and now helps small business owners up level their systems so that they can have exponential growth and success in their business. He is, in his own words, a systems devotee. And I'm sure that you are going to get so much out of this. I can't wait for you to have a listen to this one. He's amazing. You'll see. Here's my chat with Dave. Dave, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Jen, an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to it too.
Yeah, no, it's great. So systems and processes is something that I have to admit I fall down dramatically with in my business. So I'm always interested to talk to an expert about those things. But for my amazing listener who may not have come across you or would like to learn more about you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, so I wrote a book called Systemology, and the whole premise behind it is to help solopreneurs and small business owners get out of doing the day-to-day, to build process and structure around them so they can step back and, as Michael Gerber talks about, work on the business rather than in the business. So I've been doing it now for probably about 8 years. Started off doing some solo consulting, and then it's really progressed over time. I built out some software that helps with the implementation of some of the ideas that we talk about. Off the back of the book, I have built a network of certified systemologists who work with business owners to help them deploy some of the ideas. And we run programs and things like that to try and go deeper on some of the concepts that we talk about.
Yeah, okay. That sounds really interesting. Who would have thought that there's just so much to do when you're talking about systems and processes in business? I do, for my listener, so Dave and I do the Big Small Business Survey together, but I do actually remember you from years ago was it Melbourne SEO or something like that? I remember. Yeah, I remember Dave Jennings, because your surname is such an unusual spelling. I do remember having to type that a few times. So, yeah, so you've been around in small business for a long time.
Yeah, in the digital agency, I feel that's where I cut my teeth. And while I appreciated systems and processes, I wasn't applying it for a long time in that digital agency, and I was the guy. Everything came back to me. I was the lead generator, I was the salesperson, I was customer service, I was helping the staff when they got stuck, or the freelancer that I was working with. Like, I was just that center cog. And I had a bit of a wake-up call when we found out we were pregnant, and I thought, I got to change something. Otherwise, I'm going to be that dad who's working 80-hour weeks and missing their kids grow up. So that really was a big part of my journey and that turning point, which turned me into a systems devotee as I kind of went through the process of building a business that works without me.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask you where the turning point was. What's the story? What's the thing that made you go, oh, I need to get better at this? Because I think as small business owners, we all get to that stage at some part of our journey as being a small business owner where we feel like the business would break if we had a day off or if we tried to take a holiday. Imagine that, being able to take a holiday and closing your computer and things. So yours was starting the family. So yeah, great analogy to sort of think about for my listener for sure. Dave, systems and processes, like like I admitted before, they're not my thing. Marketing is my thing. Systems and processes aren't. But for my small business owner who's listening, where do they even start thinking about systems and processes, and what are maybe two or three that they should be having in place no matter where they are in their journey as being a business owner?
Whenever I get someone started, I think about what is the purpose of the business, and you're looking to deliver a product or service through to your primary client, your target audience. So, and ideally, you would love to be able to deliver that without any sort of key person dependency. So it shouldn't depend on you, or maybe if you've got team members to deliver that. So that's where I always start, because if we can deliver that core product or service and have that well systemized, then oftentimes the business can make money without needing the business owner. And once the business starts to make money, just about any problem in business can be solved with cash flow. So
Hmm.
the exercise that people start with is we map the linear journey that the prospect, and once they convert into a client, and the business goes through to deliver that product or service. So you think about how, and it starts effectively with marketing. We start off thinking about, well, what are you currently doing in your business to capture the attention of your target audience? Then how does that inquiry come into your business? And then what is your sales process like? Do you hop on the phone? Do you chat with them on Zoom? Do you generate a proposal? Then once they're ready to go, how do you collect some money? Do you invoice them up front all, or do you take part payment and bill them the rest on the other end? And then how do you get them into your business as far as like onboarding a new client? And then how do you deliver that core product or service? And then how do we hand it over to them? We map that out in a linear journey, so we understand what's currently going on, not what you would like to have going on. And then the next question to ask is, and where is the pain in that journey? As in, which bits for you are currently either really painful, or if we put 10 new clients into that funnel or that process, what breaks? Where, do you go, oh, I couldn't take 10 new clients because I wouldn't know how to onboard them, or I couldn't deliver them, or I don't even know how I'd get those clients. And again, that helps us then, well, where do we focus inside that journey? And oftentimes that's the first place we start. We think about turning what we're currently doing into a process to make it more repeatable and potentially delegatable.
Okay. So the people are obviously, the small business owners already doing this. It's already inside their head. So is that basically what you're trying to do, is get the information out of their head that they're already doing and finding where the leaks are, and then creating a process that's kind of a simple and repeatable? Well, I guess it doesn't have to be simple.
Mm,
Some processes could be complicated, but it's repeatable by anyone potentially
yeah.
with the right training.
A lot of businesses, they just struggle with repeatability. You don't even need to be world class. Like McDonald's doesn't make the best hamburger, they just make the same hamburger consistently. Most small businesses, they can't do that level of consistency because they're so dependent on someone or something. So I always start off by saying, just capture what you're currently doing, not what you would like to be doing, because you can get tremendous wins just by making something repeatable. Also, another thing to keep in mind is, just because you might not systemize it doesn't mean it's going to magically stop happening, because your business is kind of already working. All we're looking at doing is finding the key pieces, chiseling that piece out, and really going, well, what are we currently doing, and let's making it repeatable, which is the step before you can actually start to delegate it. And that's a little bit about what makes my methodology different from a lot of the other process improvement methodologies like Lean and Six Sigma. Systemology is not a process improvement methodology. The process improvement I
Okay.
see happens later. First, you want process capture. You have to figure out what you're currently doing, even if it's not the best. As I said, just making it repeatable and delegatable is a huge win for small business. And then your thinking was right. Once you capture what you're doing, as part of that capturing process, and whoever's doing it, we'll talk about, whether you get a VA or someone on your team to help do that. As they're learning that process, certain parts of it, they can go, oh, I can do that for you, or let's take that off your plate. And that then frees you up to work on higher value tasks.
Okay. So when you talk about, you've mentioned the word capture a couple of times and talking about, creating something that's linear. What does that even look like? Are we recording videos? Are we pen and paper? Have we got a system in place like an Excel spreadsheet that helps? Like, what does capture actually look like
Mm.
for someone who is like, okay, I need to create a system around X, Y, or Z?
Mm. So step one is we identify, well, what are the first 5 or 10 systems we want to capture? And oftentimes I'll do that on just an A4 bit of paper, and we map it out in a linear journey, just so like very high level. Then step number 2 is we think about where the knowledge in the team already exists, who already knows how to do those tasks. And that will happen on a spreadsheet, just like you're talking about. And we start to add a little bit more detail in, where we start to go, well, if we wrote Facebook as one of our attention getting methods, well, as we kind of move down the process, we need to get clearer as to, well, what does that mean? There's so many moving parts in Facebook, and we need an 80-20. Like, what is the main thing we're doing on Facebook? Well, maybe it's putting a daily post up. Okay, well, that might become the system that we're going to capture. Now, capturing, for the first time, 9 times out of 10, it's just recording what you're doing. It might be a Loom or a Zoom, and you're just screen recording. If it's live in the field, like we work with a lot of offline businesses, they might put a GoPro on, or they might record something on their phone. Oftentimes, just recording yourself doing the task in the moment is a great first step. And then we kind of then start to move into, once you've got the videos, and that first part we just talked through could live on a spreadsheet. Then once you've got the recording, you then start to take the next steps, which is then we get that recording transcribed, and then we feed it into ChatGPT, and we ask ChatGPT to pull out the key steps. And then that will get saved into either some sort of systems management software or a Google Doc or something, where you then have the process, which is a combination of the video and then the bullet points of the steps that you've extracted from that video.
Yeah, okay. You just mentioned, sorry, you just twigged a question as you were talking there. ChatGPT and AI. How can a small business owner be using new technologies that are emerging to make this stuff simpler for them, or to start getting the recordings that they need? Because I think that is the process that people need to go through, is that, I do things every single day and I repeat things every single day, but to spend that extra potential half an hour actually screen recording it and writing notes and that sort of thing, it becomes a one-day activity.
Yeah.
So, well, I suppose when the pain gets great enough, it becomes an urgent activity, which is, generally what happens. But how can AI, or how can
Mm.
programs like ChatGPT help make this a little bit easier for a small business owner who's already busy?
Mm-mm. So if we think in particular with like a solopreneur, as you talked about, let's say in your situation, the first step is we need to think, how do we make this as easy as possible for you to record? Because if it's in your head that'll take a whole day or a half day or whatever, or it's really going to take any longer for you to record it than if you were just to do it, then maybe we're overcomplicating it. So I'd first suggest someone, maybe they just have a folder, maybe it's a Google Drive or Office 365 Drive, and in that folder, they might have a folder for marketing, a folder for sales, a folder for operations, a folder for finance, a folder for management, or something like that. And then as they're doing the tasks, you record yourself as you're doing it. Don't worry about creating scripts. Don't worry how bad and ugly they are. Imagine no one's ever going to see these videos. You're just recording them for yourself for now. And you just record yourself in the moment doing it. Don't write scripts, like literally just say, I'm sending an invoice. I'm logging into Xero. I click here. I'm now writing this out. And even if the video's long and it's a 2-hour video of you preparing a proposal for someone in Canva and you do all of these different things, just make version 1 badly done is so much better than nothing. So we start to record it and then save it into those folders that I was talking about. And you start to build up a catalog of the way that things are done. Now, the secret bit to make this next step happen where we can start to leverage AI is you might want to look to get like a virtual assistant. And I know you've done a lot of work with virtual assistants, but if you go offshore, we have a thing we call a systems champion. You want to have someone on your team who is the person that you create a system for creating systems, and you teach them how to take one of these videos, get it transcribed, feed it into ChatGPT, load it into a document, polish it up, and then potentially they can even take some of these tasks off your plate. So definitely, I think where a lot of people get stuck with ChatGPT and even AI tools is they come across these tools and go, oh, wow, this is amazing. I can create a social media video of a cat saying how great my business is, and I can use Sora to do it, and I can post it directly onto Facebook and it looks amazing. But you've never done that before, and it's not really adding any value. You're just thinking, oh, because AI can do it, I should now do it. The trick with AI is to go, what are you currently already doing? And how can AI do that faster, cheaper, and better? So I think of it through the lens of process. Obviously, we create a lot of process. So that's why I went down the rabbit hole of thinking, well, how can I use AI and ChatGPT to speed up the way that we document process? Because we were already documenting it by hand, and that just made sense. So the actual process of documentation has probably been sped up probably about 3/5 the time that it used to take. Like we've shaved off in just going from recorded video into step-by-step procedure. It's infinitely quicker.
Mm, that's so interesting. Like, I don't think we, as business owners, and I suppose sometimes, you started this conversation at the very start, we're talking about working, on our business rather than in our business. And it's giving us the time to work on it that I think we start to see the value of so much of what you've already said, but also the value of how processes, systems, and of course, technology can make our lives a little bit easier, simpler. My podcast is called Small Business Made Simple. I'm all about simplification because, business shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be a 24/7 job where you can't take time off. And what you're talking about is one of the perfect examples of how you can make things a little bit simpler for yourself by systemizing and having a process behind things.
It's really the first step to um, building a business that has other people who can do the work in it. Like you can't actually grow and scale and build a profitable business that works without process, because all process is knowledge transfer. I'm teaching someone else how I want things done and to what standard my expectations are that they'll be completing things. So I find it's the master skill of business to be able to transfer knowledge. And the aim of the game of business is always for you, particularly as the business owner, to be working on the highest value tasks. There are certain things in business that just need to happen. You've got to schedule calls, you've got to send out invoices, you've got to follow up people, maybe you've got to onboard them into your system, you've got to post on social media. Like there's a range of stuff that needs to happen in business that you may not be bringing any particular magic to. You have to figure out what are the things that are the highest value tasks for you to be working on, and try and delegate everything else down. Look for those critical, repeatable, delegatable tasks, capture the way that you're doing it, and move it on to oftentimes less skilled, lower cost labor to free you up to then work on those higher value tasks. So it's really part of this process, particularly from growing from solopreneur into small team.
Yeah, but I think when I started in marketing and started in small business, we used to call those the $10 an hour tasks.
Yeah,
Don't do the
yeah,
$10 an hour task. Unfortunately, now it's probably the $80 an hour
yeah,
task
that's right.
because of inflation. But it is kind of like, okay, so what tasks can you basically delegate on? And having a system or process or a SOP that follows that um, saves the headache for you as well. And I guess not everything needs to be electronically recorded, like you were saying. I loved all those examples you're using because when I was thinking about when I did have staff in my retail business, like for me, I tend to do things when the pain gets great enough. So coming back from a week off and having
Yeah,
300 sticky notes all over my computer with messages and all that made me go, hey, we need a message book. And everyone
yes.
writes the messages in the message book. Like, the pain got great enough that, right, now we need to change the process of how, people communicate, within the business when someone's not there, type of thing. So I love that. And I love the first draft analogy that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't, it just has to be recorded for a start. And then you can cut and polish as you go along. Um, Dave, my next one question that's kind of we've been very positive about systems and processes.
Mm.
What's a mistake that small business owners make when it comes to thinking about this or potentially, knuckling down and creating systems and processes? Is there like some just general mistakes that people make as they're going along?
Yeah, there's probably two that come to mind. One is thinking I'm not a systems person and I don't really like process and this isn't for me, or I've tried to do that in the past and it didn't work, or thinking I'm too creative to systemize, like I don't want to put systems and processes in place because that's going to stifle my creativity. There's actually a range of different misconceptions that people have, and oftentimes they just reach that conclusion without properly actually testing it. The reality is, as I said, certain things in your business need to happen and they just need to happen, and having systems and process and structure in place frees you up to be more creative because you don't need to think about little things. I remember I used to, in that digital agency I had a videographer, and I remember he called me on the shoot once, and I remember hopping in the car. We were driving out to Broadmeadows, and we probably spent 45 minutes in the car discussing, oh, do we have a spare battery? Did I send an email to the client to remind them not to wear a checkered shirt? Oh, did we, pack that extra extension cable? Oh, I hope we've got the script on the iPad ready to go. Otherwise, we're going to have to set all of that. We spent the whole time just talking about stuff that should have been handled. And then at the end of that, I said to him, we need a pre-shoot checklist that we do at the studio before we leave. We got that in place, and about 12 months later, I remember going on another shoot with him, and the discussion we had in the car, it was worlds apart. We were discussing things like how he wanted the shot to be and the performance he wanted to get out of the actors and what his vision for the final product was going to be. Like, getting a lot of that stuff handled creates space for the creativity to come out. So there's actually quite a lot of misconceptions people have around process. And one of the biggest areas where people go wrong is typically just giving up too early. As in, you put one system or two systems or a handful of systems in place, the small 5 minutes here that you save, 10 minutes there, like systems have a cumulative effect. So systems stack on top of each other. And if you just give it a go for 3 months and go, oh, I tried that and my team didn't follow the process, that didn't work for us, and you just give up, you don't get all of the reward, which happens over the hump. You have to build up a certain amount of systems. You have to get your team involved and excited, and you have to get some momentum. Then it starts to pay off. And then you look back and go, I can't imagine doing anything any other way. Like the systems are the way. There is no other way to build a profitable business that works without you. So you might as well embrace it now. Otherwise, you're just delaying the inevitable, or you're forever going to be trained to your business.
Yeah, yeah. They're very, very wise words. I know you know they're wise words, but my listener might need to press back a couple of seconds or a couple of 30-second lots to rehear that, because I think, and even if you don't want to scale, like I know that I get some objections when we talk about scaling a business. Maybe you don't want to scale, but maybe you'd like 3 months off every year, and have the business still generating money or something like that. It doesn't, not everyone wants to, get a staff of 20 people and move through the world like that. And I get that. But what you're saying will work whether you're a solopreneur like me or whether you've got a team that you need a system and process for.
Yeah, processes, I think, fundamental. Like it's just about capturing the way that you like things done. And even like you said, I often talk about building a business that is saleable or a business that someone might want to buy. That might not necessarily mean that you do sell, but you also never know what's going to happen around the corner. Something might happen that changes your circumstance, and there is no downside to building a business that someone might want to buy, because a business that someone might want to buy removes key person dependency. They're more valuable. It means that someone else can step in. It means if you do want to take your 3 months off to have a holiday, that you can have another team member step in. And I feel like every business owner deserves to have a guilt-free holiday. Most business owners don't actually know what it means to have a holiday because they're checking their emails, they're following up with Jenny to make sure that invoice went out. They're on 24/7. And then oftentimes what ends up happening is you have a job at a business that you own.
Yeah.
You don't actually really own a business. You own a job. And that's okay, but let's call a spade a spade. If you want to be a business owner, a business needs to be able to continue to operate without key person dependency.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Dave, this has been such a great conversation around systems and processes. A couple of questions just to finish up. I've said systems and processes a couple of times. Are those the same thing, or is there a difference between a system and a process?
I actually mush a range of terms together because people overcomplicate it. I will say that they are the same thing, as I will also say SOPs and standard operating procedures and workflows and lucid charts. And I just lump it all together. And the definition I give it is it's a series of steps that, when followed, create a consistent outcome. So there are actually little differences with systems and process and procedure and SOP. Like there are actually nuances in them, but for most people, let's start off super, super simple. And it's just a set of steps that when you follow them, they produce a consistent outcome.
Yeah. Perfect. Love that explanation. Thank you. Dave, can you tell us, for my listener, if they'd like to get in contact with you or if they would like to read your book, because tell us about the book. It is targeted towards the small business owner, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's called Systemology, and that's probably the best place to head. Just go to Amazon. And if you're listening to this, you're probably an audio book person.
Yep.
There is an Audible version that you can listen to. And
Is it your voice?
it is mine. I love
Oh,
audiobooks where the author
awesome.
reads it. So that's, Amazon, and search for Systemology. The book is my system for systemizing a business. It's just 7 steps. And a lot of the initial ideas that we covered today, you'll hear it in the story. And it's just, well, here's the process on how to go from a chaotic mess to something that runs a little bit more organized.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. I will have that link in the show notes. Where else can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can also head to just systemology.com, and we've got a YouTube channel and different resources to help you get started if you want to go a little bit deeper. Start with the
Yep.
book, and then, if that grabs your interest, then follow the rabbit hole.
What's your favorite social platform to hang out on?
I'm doing most on YouTube. I'm cranking out, I don't know if that counts as a social platform.
You can have it, but not technically. But yeah, you can have it.
A close second, then LinkedIn. I do a little bit more on LinkedIn.
Yeah, great. Okay, beautiful. I will have those links in the show notes. Dave, it's been so good to have you on the podcast at long last. Thank you so much for all your pearls of wisdom, and can't wait to have you on again one day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. So, did you enjoy that? I really hope that you enjoyed that. I did admit a couple of times already that systems are not my thing. They're not the thing that lights me up. I get the value of them, and I'm trying really hard to be better at systems in my business. But marketing lights me up just like systems lights Dave up. So, I definitely want to be better at them, but again, I just need to make them a priority in my business, of course. And because I haven't made them priority in my business in the past, I've actually paid the price for that. So Dave has been very influential in getting me over that hump of realizing the price I'm paying for not systemizing my business. I do have lots of processes documented, of course, but I've got a lot more to go. How about you? What do systems look like in your business? I would love to know. What did you take away from today's chat with Dave? Send me an email, send me a DM, get in contact with Dave Jennings and say, hey, Dave, I heard you on Jen's podcast. I thought A, B, C, and D, or I have this question for you. Dave would love that, I'm sure, and I would love that as well. Of course, as I mentioned, the links for Dave are, of course, in the show notes. I'm just going to say, though, just in case you have a pen and paper, Jennings, which is David's surname, is spelt differently. So it's spelt Jeyns. So it's slightly different. So yeah, if you're looking up Dave Jennings or David Jennings on LinkedIn or in the socials, you do have to spell it the correct way. Anyway, my amazing listener, that is it for episode 293. I hope you found this episode particularly valuable. We are almost at the end of April, so I have a couple of more business basics podcasts for you to listen into, but then we're on to our next theme, which is going to be all around sales. So fancy that. Let's talk about getting better at sales. If you have a friend who might like to listen to this podcast, I would absolutely love for you to share this with them or take a screenshot of you listening and share it on your socials. Of course, if you're not in my community, like-minded business owners on Facebook, please come and join us there. Otherwise, I will see you next week on the podcast for episode 294. What am I going to do for 300? I'm going to have to think of something really fancy for 300. Of course, if we aren't social on social, please come and find me there. You'll find me, Jen Donovan, on just about all the platforms. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.